This week we'll be talking about stewardship, and even more in depth about what that means. Stewardship is the job of managing or supervising something or someone. And this is why I've chosen the name for this channel. The Minimal Steward is exactly that. I'm being a stewardship of minimalism. I'm creating a symbiotic relationship with stewardship, and I'm doing that by bringing that information to the masses. Not only does stewardship shape how I share my information, the stories that I tell, it also shapes my environment. Much like my whole room has been incredibly empty and it changes and the intention for it changes. Sometimes we record in here, sometimes I'm doing handstands in here, sometimes I'm writing things in here, sometimes I even do homework in here. Each part of that is part of this environment, and this has been emptied so that it can become whatever it needs to become. Whenever I'm dealing with things that are in my house or in my life, and we'll start with just the objects that are in my life, I treat them as guests in my house. Now, I don't actually talk to them and I don't give them a room to stay in, but I do treat them as guests. Eventually, that object won't be here. It won't be necessary, and the stewardship can move on, and the stewardship can transfer to somebody else, much like the knowledge I'm sharing with you. You can be a steward of information, of objects, of people, of yourself. The information I'm giving to you now, this knowledge, is now your job to be a steward of. You can take this information and then translate it into however you feel it's necessary and give this forward to other people, and then they in turn also become stewards of that same information. Stewardship shapes also those objects. So, for example, this table that you've seen in every single video is not just any ordinary table. This table has been around since 1954. It was actually my grandparents' table, and more specifically, it was my grandma's table. This table was created out of necessity by my grandma because she needed something shorter that would match the chair that she had way back then. It was quite some time ago. She doesn't even remember the thing that she built it for. However, this table has now passed through the generations. This is now third generation, and now I'm a steward of this table. This object is important to me. Furthermore, it's also a very minimal table, and I like it. And I'll show you that in just a second. We're going to move this table, and you're actually going to see what happens with this table and how I take care of this, because this isn't in this room at all times. Picking this up, we're just going to go ahead and move this real quick. Throw that off camera. Underneath here, you actually can see that there are screws in each one of these. And each one of these legs manage to, I'll get this disconnected here in a second, they're very stable. They all come off of the table. And when I take these off the table, I can actually store this. So it just becomes a flat piece of wood that I store in my closet so that this doesn't have to be here at all times. It's only here when I need it to be. So this table has been following me for a long time. It's been in Wyoming, it's been traveling, it's been in Utah, it's been in Colorado, it's been in Denver, it's been all over the place. And I really care about this table, so I take care of it. I know that someday I'm going to have to replace pieces of it, or I might even have to build a new one. But then I can be a steward of the new object, and I can let this take a new life and a new shape for somebody else. And when it becomes something for new people to take care of, or it's something that I don't need in my life anymore because something else came along that I wanted to be a steward of, I can transfer the stewardship to somebody else, and then that object becomes important to them if it's no longer important to me. When it's time for objects to move through a person's life, when it's time for another person to maybe exit your life, an old friend or an acquaintance where you aren't really connecting anymore, or you've evolved in different places in your life, think about the places where you can give freely. If you aren't able to give freely of yourself and the things that you have, you're going to diminish the quality of the relationships that you have. But you have to take care of yourself first. Self-cultivation for me is the principal function of my existence. The second one is the communities that I build and also nurture. Immanuel Kant gave us deontological ethics. Big word, Doesn't matter. Essentially, it's the way that he wants to treat others. And I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, treat others as a means unto themselves instead of a means unto an end. It sounds really convoluted, but basically, don't treat people as a stepping stone to somewhere else. And just as such with people, don't treat objects as a stepping stone to something else. You need those objects in your life. You use those objects and nurture them. As well as people, you nurture them and you give something of yourself. But make sure you do that self-cultivation first, and then you can give freely to the people that are in your life. The more self-cultivation you have, the more you can give to the objects that are in your life. Taking care of this table, taking care of this chair, taking care of your clothes, all of those things are places where you're giving freely your time, your energy, and your effort. There is no such thing as permanence. I mean, things stay on the planet and you can expect a table to generally remain a table for a set amount of time. But permanence isn't really a thing. Change is perpetual in our lives. And change in our relationships is an okay thing. And knowing that it's all right for those to transition, to transform, to become something new, for stewardship to change hands, and for your life to evolve. Just let it evolve. It's okay. I know it's super scary, but some of our tools weeks when we were working through grief and how to process that and coming up with a plan, that's some place where you can use that, is to know how to process and manage that grief and then move forward from there and allow the evolution to change and to bring you forward into a new, beautiful reality that you might not even know exists yet. Embrace all of that transformation, that metamorphosis for you, the objects that you are steward of, and the relationships that you're also a steward of, and know when to let that go forward and change in your life. It's an okay thing to have that plan, to allow that transformation to bring you into a new, shining reality for you. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Stay curious.